That chocolate bar in your pantry right now. The one with the familiar wrapper you've been reaching for since childhood. Go grab it. I'll wait. Now flip it over and read the ingredients. Look for vegetable oil, palm kernel oil, shea oil, something called PGPR, any fat that isn't cocoa butter. If you found one, you're not holding chocolate, not legally, not by the standards that defined chocolate for over a century. You're holding a reformulated product designed to look like the chocolate you remember while costing the manufacturer significantly less to produce. Here's what happened. As cocoa prices hit record highs, major chocolate manufacturers quietly began replacing cocoa butter with cheaper vegetable fats and synthetic emulsifiers. They kept the iconic packaging, they kept the nostalgic branding, they kept the premium prices, they just changed what's actually inside. Welcome to The Label Changed, where we catch what brands hope you'll miss. If you've ever felt like your favorite chocolate bar tastes different than it used to, you're not imagining it. The recipe changed. Hit subscribe so you never miss an investigation. Today, we're exposing 10 chocolate brands that quietly replaced cocoa butter with cheaper alternatives, and then I'll reveal 4 brands that prove real chocolate still exists. Let's start the countdown. Number 10. Milky Way. Milky Way has been a Mars staple since Frank C. Mars introduced it in 1924. That creamy nougat topped with caramel and coated in milk chocolate became an American icon. But check the current ingredients list. Right there, hydrogenated palm kernel oil or palm oil. That's not an accent ingredient. It's a fundamental component of what you're eating. The nougat center that made Milky Way famous now relies on hydrogenated vegetable oils rather than dairy fats for its texture. Hydrogenated oils are cheaper and more shelf-stable. They also create that slightly waxy mouthfeel that longtime fans notice but can't quite place. Consumer forums are filled with comments dating back years. Something changed with Milky Way. It doesn't melt the same. It tastes different. The chocolate coating seems thinner and waxier. Mars Incorporated publicly opposed FDA attempts to let manufacturers replace cocoa butter with vegetable oils and still call the product chocolate. Yet their own candy bars quietly incorporated vegetable fats into the non-chocolate components. The chocolate coating may meet legal standards. Everything underneath it tells a different story. Number 9. Three Musketeers. The Three Musketeers bar built its identity on fluffy, whipped chocolate nougat. Introduced by Mars in 1932, that whipped center was the whole point. Look at the current ingredients. Hydrogenated palm kernel oil and/or palm oil appears prominently in the nougat formulation. The airy texture that defined the bar now comes partially from industrial vegetable fats, rather than the original dairy and chocolate combination. Mars can technically claim their chocolate coating is real chocolate, but when the majority of the bar is whipped vegetable oil with chocolate flavoring, the distinction feels like marketing rather than substance. Number 8. Nestle Toffee Crisp and Blue Ribboned. Here's where reformulation becomes legally significant. In October 2025, Nestle quietly changed the recipes for Toffee Crisp and Blue Ribbon bars in the UK. They increased vegetable oil content and reduced cocoa butter. The result: these products can no longer be legally called chocolate in the UK. Look at the new packaging. Where it once said milk chocolate coating, it now says milk chocolate flavor coating. That single word change represents a fundamental reformulation. UK regulations require chocolate to contain at least 20% cocoa butter. Nestle's reformulated recipes fall below that threshold. They're telling you it's not chocolate anymore. They're just hoping you won't notice. Number 7. Kit Kat White. Even the Kit Kat isn't immune. In 2025, Nestle's Kit Kat Chunky White was reformulated in the United Kingdom with palm and shea fats constituting a higher percentage of the coating than cocoa butter. The product can no longer be legally labeled white chocolate. The packaging now simply says white instead of white chocolate. That's not a design choice. That's a legal requirement because the product no longer meets chocolate standards. Number 6. McVitie's Club and Penguin Bars. two British biscuit icons fell to the same pressure in October 2025. McVitie's Club bars and Penguin bars were reformulated with increased palm oil and shea oil, reducing cocoa butter below legal thresholds. These products can no longer be called chocolate. They are now labeled chocolate-flavored. For products that spent nearly a century as chocolate treats, this represents a fundamental break with their heritage. Playdiss explained the change as a response to record cocoa prices, which exceeded $13,000 per ton in 2024, more than 4 times typical historical levels. The companies faced a choice: raise prices significantly, shrink products further, or reformulate. They chose to reformulate. The chocolate is gone, the chocolate flavoring remains, the prices stayed the same. Number 5. Cadbury. This one cuts deep because Cadbury isn't just a chocolate company, it's a British institution. Founded in 1824, the company built 2 centuries of trust on the promise of quality chocolate. Then Kraft Foods acquired Cadbury in 2010 for $19 billion. Critics warned the American corporation would prioritize cost-cutting over heritage. Those warnings proved prophetic. In 2009, even before the Kraft acquisition, Cadbury replaced some cocoa butter with palm oil in their Australian and New Zealand products. Consumer backlash was severe enough that they partially reversed the change. Since the Mondelez era began, consumer complaints have mounted. Online reviews describe Cadbury products as waxy, less creamy, and fundamentally different. The ultimate verdict came in December 2024. King Charles III stripped Cadbury of its royal warrant. The first time in 170 years, the brand lost that prestigious endorsement. Queen Victoria first granted Cadbury a royal warrant in 1854. That 170-year relationship ended with quiet disappointment about what the brand had become. Number 4. Hershey's. Milton Hershey built his chocolate empire on making quality chocolate affordable for ordinary Americans. The Hershey's milk chocolate bar, introduced in 1900, became synonymous with American chocolate. But that recipe has been quietly modified multiple times. In 2006, Hershey's began adding PGPR to many of their chocolate products. PGPR, polyglycerol polyricinoleate, is a yellowish emulsifier derived from castor bean oil. Its purpose is straightforward. PGPR reduces viscosity, allowing chocolate to flow more easily during manufacturing while using less cocoa butter. The manufacturer Pausgard states it plainly on their website. Cocoa butter is an expensive raw material. By using PGPR, the chocolate recipe has lower costs in terms of less cocoa butter. Consumer complaints exploded online. The chocolate tastes waxy. It doesn't melt the same. Something changed and they won't admit it. Longtime Hershey's fans created Facebook groups demanding PGPR removal. The pushback was real. In 2015, Hershey's announced they would remove PGPR from their iconic milk chocolate bars and kisses, replacing it with more cocoa butter. For about a year, they delivered on that promise. Then quietly, PGPR returned to most products. Today, Hershey's website confirms PGPR comprises less than 1% of their milk chocolate. That sounds small until you understand what it replaced. Independent testing found Hershey's milk chocolate contains approximately 11% cocoa solids. Compare that to Ghirardelli at 31% or Lindt at 30%. Hershey's is barely above the FDA minimum of 10% required to call something chocolate. The company that democratized chocolate in America now produces the minimum viable product that legally qualifies as chocolate. The label still says Hershey's. What's inside isn't what Milton Hershey created. Number 3. Cadbury US products. Here's a twist most Americans don't realize. The Cadbury chocolate sold in the United States isn't made by Cadbury at all. It's made by Hershey's under a licensing agreement dating back to 1988. American Cadbury products use a completely different recipe than their British counterparts. Different ingredients, different taste, different quality. In 2015, Hershey's successfully blocked imports of British-made Cadbury products into the United States. The company making inferior licensed Cadbury used legal action to prevent Americans from tasting the real thing. American Cadbury dairy milk contains PGPR and significantly higher sugar content than the UK version. When Americans say they prefer American chocolate to British chocolate, they've often only tasted American-made versions of both. Number 2. Russell Stover. Russell Stover positioned itself as the accessible premium choice. Those familiar heart-shaped boxes have been Valentine's Day staples for decades, but check the ingredients on current products. Palm oil appears prominently throughout their lineup. Many products use chocolate-flavored coating rather than actual chocolate. In 2014, Lindt and Springs acquired Russell Stover. You might expect the Swiss chocolate giant to improve quality. Instead, Russell Stover continued its trajectory toward cost optimization. Consumer reviews tell the story. Used to be better quality. Tastes waxy now, not worth the price anymore. Number 1. Basically all major Halloween and Easter chocolate. Taking the number 1 spot as the most widespread cocoa butter compromise, the seasonal chocolate that dominates store shelves every Halloween and Easter. Check the ingredients on those bags of fun-sized bars, those hollow chocolate bunnies, those foil-wrapped eggs. You'll find a masterclass in cocoa butter avoidance. Palm oil, palm kernel oil, vegetable fat, PGPR, chocolate-flavored coating, chocolatey. These aren't accidents. They're strategic formulations designed to look like chocolate while minimizing actual chocolate content. The economics are simple. Seasonal candy is extremely price sensitive. Parents buying bags of treats for trick-or-treaters aren't comparison shopping ingredient lists. They're looking for familiar brands at acceptable prices. Manufacturers know this and formulate accordingly. Those hollow Easter bunnies are hollow in more ways than one. Many contain so little cocoa butter they can't legally be called chocolate. The milk chocolate bunny your child expects is often a milk chocolate flavored bunny shaped primarily from vegetable fats and sugar. The quality gap between everyday and seasonal versions of the same brands can be striking. The Hershey's bar you buy in January may contain more cocoa butter than the Hershey's bar in the Halloween bag. Same wrapper, different contents. This is where the cocoa butter substitution is most aggressive and most hidden. In products designed for occasions rather than conscious consumption, the label changed. Parents buying candy for their kids rarely flip the package to check. But here's the good news. Not every chocolate maker compromised. These 4 brands prove you can still buy genuine chocolate made with real cocoa butter. Number 4. Ghirardelli. Ghirardelli has been making chocolate in San Francisco since 1852. Their chocolate contains cocoa butter as its primary fat. No palm oil, no PGPR. The company uses around 34% cocoa butter in their squares, creating that immediate melt on your tongue experience that distinguishes real chocolate. Acquired by Lindt and Springs in 1998, this acquisition actually maintained quality. At around $11 for a bag of squares, you're paying for chocolate and you're getting chocolate. Number 3. Lindt. The Swiss chocolate maker has maintained cocoa butter standards since Rodolphe. Lindt invented the conching machine in 1879. That extended kneading process only works properly with cocoa butter. Vegetable oils don't respond to conching the same way. Lindt Excellence does clearly list cocoa butter as a primary ingredient. Their dark chocolate offerings range from 70 to 99% cocoa content. The melt-in-your-mouth experience that defines Lindt comes from cocoa butter's unique property. It melts at body temperature, exactly 37 degrees Celsius. No vegetable fat substitute can replicate that precise melting point. Number 2. Tony's Chocolonely started in 2005 when Dutch journalist Teun van der Koken decided to fight cocoa industry exploitation by proving ethical chocolate could compete commercially. Beyond the mission, Tony's actually makes real chocolate. Check any Tony's bar, cocoa butter appears prominently. No vegetable oil substitutes, no PGPR. Their cocoa is 100% traceable through their bean tracker system. Tony's was ranked second on the 2023 Chocolate Scorecard for Human Rights and Environmental Credentials. When you know exactly where your cocoa comes from and pay farmers enough to produce it properly, quality follows naturally. Number 1. Whittaker's, taking the top spot as the gold standard for cocoa butter. Commitment, New Zealand's Whittaker's chocolate. In 125 years of family ownership, Whittaker's has never used palm oil in their chocolate. Not once. Not when costs spiked. Not when competitors reformulated. The company made cocoa butter a foundational principle rather than a negotiable ingredient. Whittaker's is a bean-to-bar manufacturer, one of the few remaining in the world. They import whole cocoa beans and process them through every stage in their Pororua factory. This vertical integration means they control quality from raw bean to finished bar, without depending on external suppliers who might substitute cheaper ingredients. Their cocoa butter is crafted to melt at body temperature, exactly 37 degrees Celsius. As soon as you put it in your mouth, it starts to melt away, creating that smooth, satisfying texture. Whittaker's describes this as iconic. And they're right. It's what chocolate is supposed to feel like. The company requires suppliers to provide statements confirming their ingredients don't include palm oil, and they audit those statements. New product development follows strict checklists identifying any potential palm oil presence. This isn't marketing, it's operational commitment built into every process. Whittaker's chocolate costs more than reformulated alternatives. That price reflects actual cocoa butter, rather than the vegetable fats that have infiltrated nearly every other mass-market brand. You're paying for chocolate made the way chocolate was made before cost accountants discovered that consumers wouldn't notice the difference. Except consumers do notice. Whittaker's has become New Zealand's most trusted brand across all categories, not just chocolate. Quality that refuses to compromise builds trust that price-cutting destroys. So what do you do with this information? First, read the ingredients. Cocoa butter should be the primary fat in any product calling itself chocolate. If you see palm oil or vegetable fat before or near cocoa butter, the product has been reformulated. Second, watch for PGPR. Its presence indicates the manufacturer is optimizing for cost rather than quality. Third, understand the label language. Chocolate means it meets legal standards. Chocolatey or chocolate-flavored means it does not. Companies use these terms because they have to. Fourth, expect to pay more. Quality chocolate costs $12 to $20 per pound. If you're paying $5 for a pound of premium chocolate, the cocoa butter has been replaced. Fifth, consider the source. Bean-to-bar manufacturers who control their supply chain can guarantee cocoa butter content. The product's changed, but you don't have to accept it. Every time you choose cocoa butter chocolate over a vegetable fat substitute, you vote with your wallet. If you learned something today, subscribe to The Label Changed. Share this with someone who deserves to know what they're actually eating. The Label Changed. Now you know how to read it.